Story 1. I've been with my fiancé Dylan for 2 years. Each of us has our own place to live, and we're planning to marry in spring. Last week, we met with a financial advisor. I've been working with him for years, and Dylan never spoke to anyone about money, so we chose him because I already trust him. I was worried that if we talked about combining assets because we plan on completely sharing our finances, I'd bring very little. I wished my specialized training last year. So I've been either a full-time student with no income or a very low salary that barely covered my costs since high school. I basically have my car and hardly any savings. But I have paid off all my loans, and I currently make roughly half of Dylan's salary. He'd been working in a high-paying job over the last 5 years, so I assumed he'd have more securities, but it turns out his spending habits were terrible. After our meeting, my advisor called me to tell me to keep my money safe from these. Dylan is primarily helping 5 other adults. His parents and 3 siblings, 4 of whom are adults. I think they're his baggage. His parents had 4 children and could not support them on the basic income. They received a lot of government assistance, but that has all come to an end now that the children are adults. I knew Dylan helped his brothers and sisters when they were younger, and I thought it was impressive that he was willing to help make sure his siblings have a decent quality of life and that he feels responsible for that. I don't agree with him continuing to help now that they're all grown up. And frankly, seeing what he actually paid, I think it's always been way much more than that. He spent over $100 on them in the last days for things like repairing the ceilings and installing an AC unit. I'm just astounded when I told him I wasn't open to sharing bank accounts any longer. He was upset that I didn't want to help someone in need, but only my family, even I tried to be respectful. But it turned into a fight. I have my sister and all my savings, which I told Kay last year when he fell on hard times, but he reimbursed me for almost all of it. I wouldn't mind every once in a while supporting his family, or if they used to assist and try to turn things around. My family is willing to give and take. I gave my money to my sister because I knew she'd put it to good use, but his family simply spends all and asks for more. My concern that if we connect accounts, Dylan will start wasting my money as well. I told him that the only way I can see this working is if we keep going and keep our accounts separate. We split bills equally and control our own cash to spend. Though I'm concerned about how this will work with children. I don't want our family to feel the burden of his family's school ops. Dylan, his family, and some of his friends are calling me a prick. Do you go around showing our friends because I'm a terrible person and don't respect him? For God's sake, I don't want to marry into his family despite the fact that I love him. What would you do if you were in my situation? Story 2. I'm a 27-year-old female, and my 30-year-old sister is a mother of 5 children, the most recent of whom was born 7 days ago. My sister and I don't have the best relationship in the world, and she can be very judgmental for others. She always berated me for leaving high school and working with no intention of returning to school. It makes no difference that school has always been hell to me, and that I have always found it hard due to undiagnosed developmental disabilities that were only discovered when I was 15 years old. She always made comments about how I threw away my life and was unmotivated, until I just ignored her as much as possible. She lost her childhood best friends 2 years ago because she decided to divorce her husband, and my sister told her she shouldn't. I accept that I don't make an effort with her and never have because I don't want a judgmental person in my life. I also admit that I don't have a relationship with her children for the same reason, that I don't want to be around her. So I don't attempt to find a way to work something out because light contact between us seems like the best option. So, for the first time in my life, my sister reached out to me without judging me and asked for my support. Her husband is now sloppy, and after losing his job due to COVID, he refused to return to work and does not appear to be engrossed with her children. She now has to come back to work and has asked for my aid with the children and funds, mostly in temporary. She stated that she would be grateful and blah blah blah. I told her I really cannot help her. She should think about how she tends to treat others before asking them to help her. She's upset because we're sisters. She has children, and she tried to manipulate me with them. I feel bad for the kids, but I also don't have a relationship with them. So guys, am I a jerk here? Tell me what you would do in this situation. Story 3. My girlfriend and I are planning a trip to Rome. Not anytime soon because of the COVID outbreak, but we're still planning. It's also our first time going, and because my friend is crazy about Italy, I'm planning to propose to her there. It makes it extra special. My sister is aware that I'm going to propose, and she assisted me in selecting the ring. She was very encouraging until she discovered that I was planning to propose and that this will be a romantic vacation. She doesn't approve of it and said that we're not children, which is strange, and that if I wanted to go to Rome, I should take her kids, who are 15 and 17, because they also love history in Rome. I adore my nieces, but this is a special trip for me and my girlfriend, which I tried to explain to my sister, and assumed she fully grasped. However, the next time I was babysitting her children, they were upset because she had told them about the trip, and they couldn't understand why I wouldn't take them. I tried to comfort them, but I felt so put on the spot and peeved by this. I left not long after, and my sister keeps bugging me to take her kids now, and they're so unhappy. Worse, my girlfriend is started to feel accused and wonders if we should just take my nieces with us. I can't quite understand to her why I'm so frustrated right now, because I wanted to make this as a special occasion for her. What would you guys do in this situation if you aren't the jerk? Story 4. My sister recently married a woman with a young daughter. I believe she's 7 years old. They only dated for a few months and were engaged for less than a year. But that's another story. If it appears that I'm not a really fan of my sister-in-law, she's a bit arrogant and designated. and I haven't had many positive social interactions with her. This is somewhat relevant because I have an unusual name, but it's not entirely unique. It's just a little vintage, with a fairly long name to boot. My name is Cornelia, and this is a real name. I've always gone by my full name and have always turned down nicknames, despite the fact that I like how it sounds. Let's say my sister-in-law's daughter's name is Carmeline, and my sister-in-law has taken to calling me nickname is for the similarity. She calls me Curvy, and I absolutely hate that shorter version of my name. I've asked her numerous times not to call me that, and she's always keeps forgetting. I've kept ignoring her if she says that wrong name, but seemingly that's considered impolite. She claims it's confusing because my name is so similar to her daughter's, and it's easier to remember or say my nickname rather than my full name. I told her that if she liked it so much, she could give it to her child, but I won't accept it any longer from her, because she and my sister thinks I'm being assertive and immature, and it's not that big of a deal. I asked how she'd feel if I called her the wrong thing, or called her daughter a name that she doesn't like. She obviously hadn't responded to those questions. She claims I'm only being complicated because I dislike her, and she doesn't understand why it's such a big deal. I apologize if I came across as a jerk, but to be honest, you shouldn't call someone something that they don't like anyway. What would you think?